But my hope is that we'll think twice after COVID that we're not just going to forget our neighbors, because I think that's a temptation, right? Let's just go back to normal life.
Yeah.
My fence is up. I'm not going to yell across the yard, but we really say, you know what, that was really cool that I got to know my neighbor. Like I had my neighbor across the street that asked me for my phone number. I've never had a neighbor ask me for my phone number.
Yeah.
He did. He's like, we should stay in contact even after all this COVID stuff. We should be able to hang out with each other. And
Wow.
it was really cool. So my hope is that we would continue to look after each other better, which the COVID has kind of pushed us to do. But my hope is that we do that even more.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is great to be back with another episode of the Brotherhood Project. We got a great episode for you guys today. We haven't recorded it yet. That's what we're doing right now. So hopefully you're listening and excited for what we have in store for you. And so give us your time, give us your patience, and we're looking forward to another episode with your host, Philip Salmon, and my co-host. Really,
It's me.
we're both co-hosts, actually.
Yeah. Sometimes one co-hosts more than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still working on this dynamic, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's growing, you know, now that we can actually see each other. I think it's a lot better, you know?
I think so, because I can like tell if you're about to ask a question or not. Sometimes I just sit there and wait because I don't know if I'm going to have to ask the next question or if you're going to jump in.
Yeah, and I always get the cut it short.
Yeah.
I always go on those tangents. But regardless, today we have a great episode. We have another host, more of a special guest.
Yes. Today we have a special guest, Paul Huneycutt, one of my good friends, mentor, leader, teacher, youth pastor in high school. Paul's been a part of my life for a long time. Probably, I guess we're going on 4, 5, 7 or 8 years. That's a lot.
Like 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. He started out around when I was a freshman in high school. He jumped in as our youth pastor, moving in from Montana.
Yep.
And right around when I was graduating, he transitioned into a new job, which we'll dive into here in a moment. But yeah, Paul, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Well,
Happy to have you.
I want to go ahead and just start. As I mentioned, when our relationship first started, you were a youth pastor, and that kind of was our first introduction to you. But go ahead and just give us a little bit of where your perspective comes from, some of your background, and where you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in North Carolina, grew up in a Christian home, and so never thought I'd be in ministry one day, but felt like I was raised in youth group, those kind of things, had a great family life. But late in my life, late in my high school years, I felt like the Lord was calling me to love people more of a vocation way. So to put myself in a place where I could minister or serve people overseas. Youth pastor, I really love being a part of youth ministry just because I grew up in a great youth ministry and thought that was really fun. But then the Lord had different plans for us to go overseas, to hopefully go to West Africa one day, but because of different scenarios, one of those being our daughter who was born with special needs, cerebral palsy, kept us from going overseas. But it sent us to Ohio, and where I was a youth pastor with Austin, and then towards the end of that, felt a calling to really be more on a missional kingdom advancement role in the city of Cleveland. And so we started the Envision Site here in Cleveland, which is a nonprofit organization, which is a part of the Christian Missionary Alliance, but really is geared towards engaging the urban environment with creative new initiatives, but also inviting others to join us. So more of a development area for people to come and gain a new heart for the city, getting a new heart and a love for people. So that's what we currently do. So we lived in the city of Cleveland for a little over 5 years now. And can't say that I love the Browns yet, but I do root for the Indians, I guess. That's my American League team. Mm-hmm. I'm an Atlanta Braves fan at heart. That's who I really pull for.
Yeah.
Just shove, I'd probably pull for Atlanta before I pull for Cleveland. It's starting to switch. I really love the tribe atmosphere, and so that's a little bit. I'm married. Have my beautiful wife Lorie and my two kids, Rylie, who is 14, and my son Hudson, who is 12.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, we are recording video for this. We're putting up on YouTube and using for other special things. But I got my my Browns jersey on because of the NFL draft, and Paul's got his Indians hat on, and Phil's just he missed the memo.
I didn't get the memo. It's a sad fact that I am poor with communication.
No, we us Cleveland people, we just have a lot of pride and we like to show it. It was kind of nice last night with the draft, kind of having some sort of some live sports somehow, new stories in sports, kind of something just to have hope for what is what's currently going on. But talking about Envision and kind of the work that you guys do, how have you guys adjusted that for these past 30 days with everything that everyone's dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, so for like most cities, the restrictions have been pretty steep, and so trying to honor those. For us, I mean, even more specifically, my family, I really felt like it was a much needed pause in our own family rhythm. Of I'm one that likes to move a lot. I like to be engaged. I like to be on mission, doing different things, and probably for the past couple of years, the Lord's been kind of quietly saying, I need you to slow down. I need you to spend more time with me, just being still. And I disregarded that. I was just like, no, the mission's more important, God. It's your mission. I'm really going after it, right?
Yeah.
So for me personally and our family, it's really given us some really good still time. And to really just spend time in the Lord, knowing that the Lord is sovereign and that He's got all these things, that He doesn't really need me. If He doesn't want me, if He doesn't need me, He doesn't need me. So it's been really good to be reconnected with Him and kind of hearing more of His heart. But it's also pushed us to be more creative as we come out of this COVID pandemic. How will we serve people and minister to people, which I feel like is probably going to be the greater issue than actually what's going on right now.
Right.
So for most of the time in Cleveland, there are food programs. We have a great food bank here. Most people have been pretty quiet. They're staying fed. For the most part, they're staying social distancing, and they're staying in their homes. But I'm more concerned probably as we come out of this, what will be the reactions of people when homeowners begin to ask for back rent, which they haven't been having to pay right now, but they're going to have to pay sometime. And then what happens when the hustle and bustle got to go back to work and people become more hungry then because food's not always going to be available, just because they don't have the money to pay for it, and they don't have they don't have the stimulus check coming out. You guys have probably seen this in your own context, but in Cleveland, you get a stimulus check and everybody goes crazy.
Yeah.
And they're not buying the things they need; they're buying the things they want.
Right.
So in the summer, we're probably gonna have a chance to feed people that probably had the money but spent it because they don't know how to manage their money or things like that. So we've adjusted in some ways. I mean, we've been on Zoom. I have more Zoom phone calls than I've ever had my whole entire life.
Right.
Which I'm just so eager to get back and just meet with somebody face to face. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But we're doing a lot of planning. We have a lot of gardens, and gardens don't require a lot of people to be around to get prepped. So we've been doing that kind of stuff and limiting our time with people. But some of my staff have developed Google Classrooms, and so our ESL that we were providing for refugees went all digital, and even where we don't have to be present. He just built a whole class, so they just go through the requirements and complete their ESL classes. So we've gotten more technological, which I'm not. That's why I have staff that can do that stuff. I just tell me how to do it and I'll do it, but I'm not going to build anything. So we've done some things, but really just trying to honor. I feel like that it's our responsibility to honor the wishes of our government, even though I don't always agree with it as much and wish I could be out there doing stuff.
Right.
I feel like it's our chance to abide by those rules.
Yeah. No, it is amazing to think about all of the new problems and issues that will pop up in different neighborhoods and communities just as a result of this that aren't even related to illness or disease at all. The
Well,
different.
The fact that you make people stay together that a lot of times don't even really like each other.
Yeah.
Like domestic violence is on a rise here in Cleveland. I mean, it's not just here; it's a lot of places.
Yeah.
It's funny how even radio stations are joking about divorce. Like after COVID, when are you going to find your divorce lawyer? I'm like,
right.
But you're forcing
Crazy.
people to spend time with each other, which you would think they would want to do.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest too, I mean, it's not normal that our families are spending every moment,
every hour. Yeah.
And I love my family, I love my kids, but some part of me is like, I want you to go back to school for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about that. Like when it first happened, I was thinking about because a lot of times in culture, there's this work, grind culture. Just kind of like, I was like, oh, this will be really nice for people who work all the time to spend time with their family. Like they get to stay home. But then also like, yeah, you're spending every hour for like 45 days together. And there's a lot of situations out there too that you're saying, now they're forced to be in those situations that could, harm them. So yeah, at first I was like, this is great. People who work all the time get to stay home, get to know their family, spend time with their kids. But there's also the other side too.
It's been hard. It's been hard for my friends that are pastors. I feel even worse for, because I'm going, as much as they should be still, I feel like they're working more than they ever worked.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like drive up services and all this extra lights, and I'm going. Part of me is like, maybe it's just be good just to shut everything down and trust. But I just feel bad because I feel like I talk to some of my friends who are like, I'm working harder than I ever worked, and I haven't left my house. I'm going. Yeah. I don't always know if that's a great thing either. So
yeah,
but we've enjoyed some rest and some good quality family time. But there are times where I got to go outside and take a walk just to clear your mind and just be away from the people you love the most.
Exactly. I've been having a lot of patio time. Just even if it's raining or it's cold, I'm like, I'm just gonna sit out there for a little bit, have some solo time.
Yeah, that's I definitely can relate to that. One of the questions that I kind of just listening sparked my curiosity was just kind of this idea of like, what are you kind of talked about honoring some of the desires of government, making sure that you're staying at home, social distancing. And I'm going to kind of not try to change the topic or anything, but one thing I'm just really curious about is because of your all's relationship, you and Austin speaking, Paul, and I'm just really curious about your position now. When you're looking at it now, what are some things that prepared you while you were his youth pastor that has helped you, not just specifically in this season of life, but in your position now? So I guess my question is, what are some of the things you honored as a youth leader for Austin that has helped you be successful in the position that you are in now?
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the things that I learned even as a youth pastor, is the value of people's thoughts and opinions. Is that sometimes we're taught that you got to make a big splash, you've got to have all the right answers. And yet there's far greater people in the room a lot of the times that have good answers. And that includes students as well. Like I can be a pastor and I can teach a passage of scripture, but yet one of my students may be hearing something very different from the Lord during that passage. And if I were to negate that because, well, you don't know, you're just a student, right? You're actually saying, no, God, you don't know what you're talking about. And so one of those things that I've just always taken with me, and I learned in those days of youth pastors and working with the staff there, but that everybody has an opinion and they're all valuable. They may not always be right or right on target, but they also have a mind. The same Holy Spirit lives within them that lives within me. But to be able to take that and to process it and think through it, not just to say, no, you're not qualified to say something. You're not that. So that's one thing. And then, I don't know, that's probably one of the biggest things I would say for me.
It's good. Yeah. I thought I had the opportunity, I thought I'd ask that question. No desire to change the topic, but
Yeah. I was listening to someone today, and they were talking about how they were having a meeting with a bunch of pastors, and they're like, they realized that they've all turned into televangelists because they're all live streaming, they're all doing TV stuff.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is a lot of these guys are having really good results.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm just going, man, it's got to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. One of those things I've been learning, and the reason I made that comment about the government is that the temptation is to say, you know what, well, we have Jesus, so we can do whatever we want. Right? It's like, and I've just found so many times here in our context in the city especially, they're looking for Christians to be stupid.
Right.
So they can capitalize on that. Like, oh, look at these Christians out here. They're doing all these things because they don't feel like they have to listen to nobody.
Yeah.
Then they're the ones that get coronavirus. And they're like, oh, look at you guys. And so,
yeah.
Although I don't know where I sit on the fence on all this COVID stuff and how we should be staying home or not staying home, I go back and forth. Every day's like different, right? Like,
yeah.
They're a bunch of crazy people. They don't know what they're talking about too. Maybe I shouldn't go outside for a few days,
Mm-hmm.
But, there's people out there that know more than I do. And I would much rather care for our reputation sometimes where this is not a subject we need to fight for necessarily. We just need to be honoring to that. And so it's been tough because I've had some of our Envision counterparts around the world that have taken different, paths and doing some good things, but at the same time, risking a lot. Not just their health, but more so like their testimony of like, are you doing this because you think you don't have to listen to anybody? So that's been interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's tough when the 99%, of Christians are adapting and they're thriving, and the 1% are the ones making the headlines. Ruining, putting themselves at risk, and then results, and then obviously the news picks that up. It's tough. I had a thought and I forgot it.
Yeah, no, I remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about, Austin and I, we talked about kind of what image this season is going to give to a lot of, organizations. We talked briefly about how some of the organizations are doing a lot of good things, but there's also some that haven't really painted a good picture for themselves as a company. It's like our desire after all this is over to go back and, support them and to go through that. I just think that's something that is very valid in the season of how we are honoring God in this season, not necessarily through our actions all the time, but through how we posture ourselves in the season. Because I surely would love to go outside and run around and spend time with friends, but I think being respectful to what is asked of us, I think it's good to be respectful.
Yeah, but it is one of those risks. It's like one of those things like you could be that one organization that does step out and start feeding people. And we're all like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. But I feel like I would be the organization that would do that. And everybody go, look at those guys. Why are they out? And it's like, it is that balance too. It's like, it takes greater – we found that it takes greater investigation and research on how we go about doing those things. So, your organization really wants to feed somebody. Well, there's already somebody out there who's probably doing it the right way. Yeah. So how could you come and assist them to do that instead of you doing your own thing and then putting yourself out there? So we've had to do some of that. Like our local food bank is a great place. They need funds. They need people to come and help pack boxes. Yeah, you may not be the ones that are delivering the food, which we all want, right?
Yeah,
we
want the glory.
And the glory, yeah. And so it's crazy. One of our sites, and I'm not going to tell you where it's at, but, they did some of this stuff, and they've already had to be quarantined twice. Wow. Because there's a risk. I'm like, why would you put your staff through that? You don't want them to get sick. Yeah. But then they're also ministering to thousands of people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's hard, especially.
We have fun discussions on our Zoom calls with some of these leaders.
Yeah, because everyone, so the Christian community, often falls in line with the Republican community or the conservative. And then it's just a lot of people who are freedom this, freedom that, and they want the freedom to go to church. They want the freedom to decide what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. And it's just been this mess of like, I just take a step back and like, what would Jesus do? Like, he's not going to take sides, in politics. He's going to do what best, to serve God. And, everyone talks about the Constitution, how you have this right for religion, but you have the right for peaceful assembly. And you could argue that, maybe assembly right now wouldn't be very peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something that's, go ahead, Paul.
Oh, you're good. You go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just going to quickly I think that's a very valid point, because I think too often, I don't think we want to get too political, but I think, I think a lot of times the issue is people choose to put the Bible in the context of the Constitution instead of putting the Constitution in the context of biblical truth. And I think that's, can get people in trouble.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. I was just talking to one of my friends. They are missionaries in the Senegal area. And they were just saying, even as Americans, we tend to be the ones that really do like, you can't take this freedom from me. You can't do this. I want this.
Right.
And they were giving an example of like, it's much bigger than America.
Yes.
It's so much bigger than America. And he goes, our friends are having to choose to buy a mask or buy food. Like and they may not know if they're going to make it the next day. Where in America, we're upset because we can't choose.
Yeah.
We want to go to the mall. I was saying we can't go to Walmart, but everybody goes to Walmart. Walmart's still full blast. It's like the fullest place in town. So
it's nuts. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. People, if they don't see it right in front of them, they don't believe it. Yeah. It's not going to hit home until it hits home. Like,
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's tough. The reason that we're not. I mean, we're a lot more advanced in our medical field and everything, but a lot of these things and procedures that we've put into place have helped us not, have greater numbers and greater people getting sick and dying. So, yeah, I'm sure a lot of things are going to change during this, but also post Corona, the way that a lot of people do ministry and that a lot of people run their church, they're going to probably take a couple things from this period that they've learned that they liked and things that they've found that are helpful and adapt them to the way that they're doing ministry. Have you seen anything that like the Google Classroom sounds like it'd be a really great tool for you guys to just, give to people. Is there anything else that you've noticed that you might carry into post-COVID?
I mean, I think the use of technology to what it's best used for. I mean, I feel like there's so much technology out there that's just for fun, right? It's makes life more fun, not necessarily better. But things like building classrooms where we could teach an ESL class person to person, but somebody could go back and review the same class online. They have that more available. I would say I don't know, outside of that, I mean, I guess I have more nervous things, because I feel like that post-COVID, there's going to be this tendency to be afraid. And so even just interaction with people,
right.
We were at the hospital. Rylie my daughter had appointments in Columbus yesterday, and you can't enter the hospital without a mask on, which is not really anybody in the hospital. But because of some x-rays she had to get done, Rylie I knew she was smiling, right? But nobody else could see that. And what I found, like, we wear all these masks, and I'm like, wow, that's really, like, this person thinks that my daughter is really she's really mad. Well, no, she's really just laughing.
Yeah.
But I tend to think that, because of that kind of mentality, because we're going over the board and we have to be careful and all these kind of things, I'm afraid that's going to linger into how we interact with people.
Right.
That's, we're not going to give the handshake. We're going to think twice, right? And some people are like so thankful. My wife's not a handshaker and a hugger. So she's like, oh, this may be good for me when I go to the church service and meet and greet. Nobody touches me. I'm good. But part of me is like, I feel like the technology's always kind of been that. In some ways, the negative part about technology is continuing to push people apart from each other. and there's this tendency to have a virtual lifestyle that's very different than reality.
Yeah.
And so I'm probably nervous about those kind of things. But I think just heightened, my hope is that one of the things I saw in the very beginning of all this COVID is that it's pushing people to have to love their neighbor. Because that's all we really got. But my hope is that we'll think twice after COVID that we're not going to say, we're not just going to forget our neighbors. Because I think that's a temptation, right? Let's just go back to normal life. My fence is up. I'm not going to yell across the yard. But we really say, you know what? That was really cool that I got to know my neighbor. Like I had my neighbor across the street that asked me for my phone number. I've never had a neighbor ask me for my phone number.
Yeah.
Did. He's like, we should stay in contact even after all this COVID stuff. We should be able to hang out with each other.
Wow.
It was really cool. So my hope is that we would continue to look after each other better, which the COVID has kind of pushed us to do. But my hope is that we do that even more moving forward. But that's my hope. But I don't know if that will happen.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think we could talk about coronavirus all day. It's all everyone does now, all day, every day. I kind of want to dive into some stuff, before coronavirus. A lot of the work that you do, that I feel like every time we come and see you, and we talk about Envision, you always have like 5 more like amazing stories or something, about the work that's being done. I remember last Christmas we came over and you told a story about, I think you were taking a break and you were hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one hymn that's always been really like important to you is "As the Deer," right?
Yep.
I remember I really enjoyed that story. If you kind of want to, if you feel like telling that story or give us an update of something awesome that's been going on.
Yeah. So I've always grown up around hunting, and my dad hunted, my grandpa hunted. We have a cabin in Virginia, and I've always enjoyed that aspect of it. Never really shot anything. Just enjoyed being present. But my buddy here that I work with, Tom, said, "Hey, let's go to your parents and hunt this year." I'm like, "Sure, no problem." And so I found myself, like I said, I don't like to sit still a whole lot. And so, but the way that we hunt in Virginia, you have to sit in a tree stand. It's not a whole lot of moving around. And so, and there were some things I feel like the Lord was really wanting to do in my heart, but didn't know where to find the time to go sit and do that. And so that happened to be in a tree stand, sitting, and I'd been there the day before for a few hours, and but it took me like one day to kind of get ready to be still to listen to God, because I had to kind of forget all the things that were going on and kind of process through that. But on this evening, I was there for about 3 hours in a tree stand, and these are the verses that were coming. It was, be still, know that I'm God, or, you lead me by green pastures. You will fulfill my soul. Those kind of things. Those things are, and I'm praying these of God. Like, I want that. I feel like I'm really just tired. I feel like I'm tired of my life. And this has been the first free time just to be able to not think about anything else except for sitting in this stand. And, if I see a deer, great. If I don't see a deer, but I'm here. I'm still, and I can enjoy nature. I have this really nice river that's running by. So it's like one of those picturesque places.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? God, I am cool with just being here because I've already gotten what I needed. I don't need to see anything. I don't need to even kill anything, even though that we're there to get meat. But at that moment, as I was praying that, and it was almost dark, and I hear this big splash. And I'm like, part of me is like, Jesus, is that?
Hello.
And I look over my left shoulder, and there stands this huge buck sitting across the river, just standing there.
Right when the good part.
Oh no. It's frozen. You said as you just looked over and there's a huge buck standing there.
Yeah, so here's this buck standing there, and I'm going, this is not real. Like, what's going on here? And I know, like, that's when everything starts, your heart starts pumping, like, oh, this is my chance. And I'm just had this wonderful time with Jesus. But almost like, is just Jesus just saying, when you're still, let me just get past the shooting part of it. So I turn around, I turn over my shoulder, I make a shot on the deer, and I kill the deer. And the first shot, deer goes down. And we wait for a little while before we get out of our stand and go check on the deer and stuff. And it was at my moment I felt like the Lord was just saying, Paul, if you were just able to if you were able to be still long enough, I've got more in store for you. And the Lord didn't have to I didn't have to have a deer come by that night. I was good with whatever I had, but the Lord's almost saying, your idea of good and profit is not what I have in store for you. And so I walked away with a 7-point buck that people would be jealous of. It was, and I was just excited, like I got a deer. But and it was crazy, is because I shot twice over my parents' cabin to get because I had to go across the river to get this deer. They finally came, and it was crazy because my buddy Tom gets out and goes, "Oh, you shot your first deer," and he was like, more excited than I was.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that makes me feel really good. Like, wow, I did this. And then even that night we got it back, and my dad, I was laying on the couch and everybody's going to bed. And I slept on the couch, and my dad, it's a pretty small cabin.
Yeah.
So my mom and dad were in their room, and then you hear my dad, and he goes, man, my son shot a deer today. That makes me so happy and so proud. And I'm like almost in tears on the couch because the deer was really insignificant to what God was trying to do that day. He was just trying to, I feel like the guy was just like, I want to bless you, Paul. And I want to bless because you sat still for a couple hours, even though it was an attempt to kill a deer. And let me sing over you a little bit. Let me give you this deer. Let me have a good friend there with you to celebrate. And let me have your earthly father tell you what I really feel about you.
Wow.
And so it was really cool, because then I got home. My wife had gotten this picture that I'd taken, and she got the verse put underneath it even before I even knew it. It was for my Father's Day gift, I think, or some kind of, it was my birthday gift or something. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
So that deer hangs on my wall.
That's awesome.
Not necessarily because it was the best looking deer, but it was
A reminder.
Like that God wants not just what we think is best, but He wants so much more for us than we could expect.
Wow. Yeah. I remember that being a good story. So I'm glad that thanks
another
for
one,
telling
another one.
First, what kind of, so there's a lot of us, obviously, our whole generation has a problem with being still. What kind of things would you encourage other people to do who are looking or feel like they're being called to take a step and be still?
Yeah, for me, like right now I'm sitting in an office space. I was in the attic until last week. But for me, I have to get somewhere where I can be completely still. And it's got to be quiet, but not necessarily without music and stuff. I've actually picked up this Gregorian chanting. It's like I don't do it, but I listen to some of it because I was in France with my wife back in October and was going through this tour of this old church in France, and I heard this. It just made me really become pretty still. I was kind of wigged out a little bit when I was asking him. I have a life coach that I meet with, and I was like, "Is it okay if I listen to chanting?" Like, I'm a little nervous. He goes, "No, like whatever gets you to be pretty still."
Yeah.
And it's not even in English, so I don't even know what they're even saying. But it's just kind of this humming for me, which it helps me to kind of focus. So for me, I have to get up at the very beginning of my day. So I even get up a whole extra hour early than I usually get up to take care of our kids and stuff. So I'm up at 6 every morning, and I just take an hour. And I usually have a notebook and a Bible, and I may read one verse, I may read a chapter. But my main goal is to sit still and to listen. And so there's days where I don't even open up the Bible. I have a thought that I've been thinking about for the past 2 days, and the Lord's helped me. I'm writing things out. I'm learning. That's one thing that people have always challenged me to journal. And I'm like, that's so stupid. I'm never going to journal.
Mm-hmm.
But I started picking it up, and it's been really good. Like, writing my thoughts down has helped me to be more action-oriented too. Like, not just reading something and processing it in my mind, but if I write it down, I'm more likely to do it. So for one of the things I've been writing down in my journal here recently was just going back over the whole love chapter in 1 Corinthians 13 and really like understanding what love is. It's patient. It's kind. And I processed through that and wrote things down like, what am I going to do today to be kind to my family, to be kind to outside people? So for me is finding a place where I can be still. A lot of times it's outside too. Like I can go for a walk and do that. But then making a specific time and sticking to it. I'm a creature of habit. I think a lot of us are like that. But if I have a habit, I have to build that habit. And if I don't try to do it, then I won't do it. So that's probably, for me, is I think even your generation can somewhat be goal-oriented. But even in your quiet time, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not good at, I don't have a good habit of being still. So I'm going to start at, people are like, well, that's not very spiritual. I'm like, well, dude, I can't do these other things like other people do. I have to go and be still and sit in a room by myself, even in the attic, which is like people are like, why would you ever go to an attic? I'm like, because nobody's there.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things is just put it on your map, put it on your schedule, put it on your calendar that every day I'm going to get up and do that. And it's almost been a competition with myself. Like I'm sitting there and 6 o'clock comes around. I'm like, oh, I'm not getting up. And I'm like, nope, you're 5 days in a row. I can do go number 6.
Prove yourself wrong.
Yeah.
If you have doubts, just prove them wrong. That's how I feel about running sometimes. It's like, I'll never be able to run 6 miles straight. Well, let's prove them wrong. Let's go for it. Yeah. No, I think that's really encouraging because a lot of people, they just don't know where to start. They just don't know what to read, where to read, when to read. And it's kind of encouraging just, you can just be still and, just allow yourself to free yourself from things that may distract you. If you have to go to the attic, go to the car, go to the garage, patio, just, be still and just be led.
Are you allowed to give plugs on here?
Yeah, go for it.
So there's an app called Lectio 365.
Okay.
And one of those things too, like, because what you said sparked something. There's so many people think that there's a certain way to do your quiet time or be still with Jesus, right? And for some of us, we need something to kind of prime that or get it going.
Yeah.
And this is an app. It's called Lectio 365. And it basically takes you through a whole 7 to 10 minutes of reading scripture, praying, which I found is a part of what I do. It's been so good. It's even got some of the, good music you used to play for me in the background. It's kind of that background music that helps you focus. So that's been a really good app for me. And it even says, even some of the prayers are like, pray this. And you're like, oh, that's a really good prayer. I am going to pray that. That's good. So, but it's one of those things there's been no shame. I just do it. It's a good tool for me to be still and helps me to connect with Jesus. So I do it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great plug. We're always down to give more resources out to people to make it easier for them to make that connection and be still. Phil, do you want another story?
Oh, you don't have to if you don't want to. But no, I think that was a lovely story, and I think it's funny because as you were saying, you were almost tears in your eye. I was like, I'm in tears in my eyes right now just listening to the story.
I'm proud of you.
I just think that's an awesome story, and I think that's something. Just that message in itself is a beautiful example of what God desires from us, each one of us. And you're right. There's no one way, fit all. It's certainly something that you have to. I think one thing can be very discouraging is guys our age, they're just graduating from college or a year out or so, and they're just like, I gotta be able to find these habits. I got to develop these things now. And it's just like, and I think that the challenging part is, we want it now. Our culture, we want it now. And it's not the way it is. And so like finding unique ways that is specialized to who you are as an individual is very important, and understanding at the very end of the day, it's over time. And I think for me, like I've done journaling a couple times, and I'll do it on and off, and I'll wake up and exercise, and it's just on and off, and it's just I get frustrated with it at times, because I'm like, why am I not the way that I want to be now? And it's like, oh no, I have to take a step back and understand that God is still working on me, and I think that's just a beautiful that solidifies or justifies the toil that we go through. I've been reading through Ecclesiastes, and I think that's just because I've been struggling a lot lately with, what do I want to do with my life? In your story, you're like, what am I doing? Like, I don't want to do this anymore kind of situation. It's just like, just take a step back and enjoy the toil that God's given you, so that you can honor him in those moments. So that's a good story. I like it.
Right on.
That was my summary. That was my reflection. I'll submit that on a Google Classroom for you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Submitted for grading. So Paul, you mentioned a little bit in your introduction that you had this desire to work more in West Africa and do more missions and be a missionary overseas. And you weren't able to do that. But I think I remember this a couple of years ago, was there an affirmation for you when you started working in Envision Cleveland that God was giving you affirmation that this is where you're supposed to be? Was it working with refugees? I can't remember exactly what it was. I know there was an experience that you had that was a little bit of affirming for you that this is where you're supposed to be, but you get to still work with West Africans.
Yeah, so I think it was probably early in our journey here in Cleveland is that, we had this, I had already moved, being an optimist and thinking, okay, God, what's next? Is kind of my mentality. Although there was some grief there that we couldn't go overseas. My wife really struggled with, God, you called us to go to Africa. And we're the ones saying, please send us, not, God, please don't send me to Africa. We're like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so when we got here, what was really interesting is that, we were looking at houses and we couldn't afford to buy a house. So we were looking on the land bank website where we could get a house for $1, so then hopefully we could fix it up and live in it. And so I had looked at like probably 10 or 15 houses. Lorie looked at them all and was like, nope, not living there. Nope, not living there. And then we had this one house that came up, and I'm like, this is it. And she wasn't with me that day, but my buddy was. I'm like, hey, would you mind if I bring my wife back up here and you could kind of just show her what we're talking about? Because she needs to see the big picture, like what it could be. And he knew a little bit about our story, and so we showed up that day. And I was showing Lorie, and she's on, I don't know if I like this. And then here comes my buddy Daryl, and he's got a friend with him, and he's a black guy. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't look like he's from Cleveland. And I'm like, oh, that, I think he's African. And he comes in the door and goes straight to my wife. Bonjour, madame. And my wife speaks French, and he's like, my name is Luke. I'm from Burkina Faso, West Africa. And Lorie's like, and my wife instantly starts crying. That's where we wanted to go. We wanted to go to Burkina. And here's this guy that's a helper of this construction guy that's from Burkina Faso. And Lorie's like, I love the house. It's going to be great. I'm like, that's all it took is that, that we would have her come. And she just says, Paul, that's, And so there's a couple other scenarios that happened where I was there. They're working on our house, and our electrician's from Congo, and his helper was from Burkina Faso. And then about 2 years later, my daughter was having therapy at United Cerebral Palsy, and had somebody was doing their clinicals at UCP, and Lorie started talking to this guy, and he's like, "Oh, you're not from here?" He's like, "No, I'm from Africa." He's like, "I'm from Burkina Faso, West Africa." And of course, Lorie gets all excited, like, "Oh, And they started talking, and Lorie's like, I was there in Burkina, and I stayed with the Schaefers, and the guy's like, my mom is the housemaid for the Schaefers. She's the cook. And so all these connections are happening, and they knew Pete Brockup, and
Yeah.
and it was one of those things that, they're both in tears by now. Like, who would have thunk that we were in Cleveland, Ohio,
Yeah.
and our dream to be in West Africa, but now there's a Burkina Bay physical therapist working on our daughter. Like, it's just one of those things. And so I think it was one of those two scenarios, realizing that it wasn't Africa that we fell in love with; it was the people of Africa.
Right.
So, which really sparked a love for all people. Like, realizing, I'm speaking in a C&MA thing tomorrow about this, is that because of our situation and even our story, it's really helped us to see people, to really see people, not to look at their color, their skin, or their religion, or their abilities or disabilities.
Yeah.
That they all are made in the image of God, and that He cares for them all. And He all wants them to know Him, but He also wants them to be on mission with Him. And so that's kind of opened up those doors of, we had great times in Burkina for different places, but Cleveland's where God envisioned us to be, and our story brought us to Cleveland.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that. I would have never moved to Ohio.
Right.
And we can just really see God's hand. And now my wife's like, I love Cleveland. I don't ever want to leave.
Huh.
I'm like, really? Like, you don't ever want to leave
Never.
Cleveland, Ohio?
It's kind of cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm to North Carolina. I could find a place to live down there. She's like, nope, I love Cleveland. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Kentucky is a lot warmer than Cleveland. I've learned, and I'm enjoying. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, no, that's really encouraging.
I almost cried again.
All around. Yeah, I mean, Paul, you're a legend, man. You're a part of some awesome things, and God is really using you, doing some fantastic work, and teaching you and everyone else along the way. So, I appreciate you and being a part of my life, and now everyone who's listening can be encouraged because of that.
Everybody go out there and shoot your own deer.
Yes, go. We'll take more of the go and love everyone and serve everyone regardless of who they are.
Sorry, I'm the one that always distracts. I just imagine everybody going to Instagram and then like shooting deer and then hashtag Brotherhood Project.
Yeah.
And just be so confused.
Yeah.
Hey, any promotion is good promotion. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Any press is good press. So we can start to kind of round out this show. I'm sure we could go on for another hour if we wanted to. Just talking about ministry and stories and experiences. But to kind of wrap up with each guest, we ask each guest the same question. What does it mean to them to be a good brother? And it's kind of our mission here at the Brother Project is just to have a community where guys and really anyone can come and hear quality content that will encourage them and teach them, but also entertain them, with the ultimate goal of becoming better neighbors and better brothers and sisters. So to you, Paul, what does it mean to be a good brother?
Well, I've been thinking about it the whole time we've been talking, and I think 3 words that kind of rise to the top. The first one is being vulnerable, being people that are willing to step out there and take a chance, right? And sharing, whether it's good or bad or hard. I feel like that men do not tell. They don't share the story. Like, we always have to feel like we have to pry things out of them, and it'd be just much easier to say, you know what, I just feel like crap today. And this is why I feel like crap. So vulnerable is a big thing for me. I've tended to try to really live that out in my life of being, I even put myself out there too much sometimes. I'm going, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But it's always turned out pretty well. I walk away from places going, you know what, I left it all out there, and it's okay. So vulnerable. The second thing is honest. Honest feedback. If your friend says, hey, what do you think? Don't hem-haw around it just for the sake of somebody's feelings. Like, if it's honest and it's coming from a place of love, then share it. So being honest with each other. And then I think probably the last one, which is a big one for me, is just being loyal. To be a brother is to be loyal. And sometimes loyalty, some people say, well, loyal till doesn't matter what I do. No, like, loyal is being, I'm going to be your friend, and I'm going to do the things that are going to help you the most in your life. And I'm not going to leave. I'm going to be here. But I also am going to tell you when you're messing up or when you're not, when you're falling short and stuff like that. So those three things: vulnerable, honesty, and what did I just say?
Loyalty.
Yeah, loyalty.
Awesome.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you very much. We
No
appreciate you. We love you guys.
Love you guys too.
If you're listening still, check us out on Facebook at the Brotherhood Project on our page to kind of stay updated with what's going on, to see a discussion about each episode. And now on YouTube, where you can see a video of the full show, kind of watch us make funny faces at each other, figure out who's frozen and who's not frozen. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we will see you next Monday. Forget where I came from. To get to the top, gotta start from the bottom.